Joining us now, ladies and gentlemen, is a man who is back on the program after becoming the general manager of the North Carolina Tar Heel football team. Ladies and gentlemen, Michael Lombardi.
What's up, guys?
How you
It's
doing?
so good to see you guys. Look, it's awesome. We got great football, college football. It's awesome.
It is awesome. Everything's awesome. Let's talk about your life. How's it been being a college general manager? I saw you at a high school taking some photos with Coach Belichick. I know you're trying to kind of get a lay of the land down there. How's it been in these first couple weeks?
It's been really good. Obviously, the reception here in the state of North Carolina has been unbelievable. This is such a great state for high school football. We've got some incredibly gifted players coming out in the 26 class, so we're trying to make sure we see all of them. And it's been really wonderful. I mean, everybody here at the University of North Carolina, from the Chancellor, Lee Roberts, down to Bubba Cunningham, the athletic director, everybody's been supportive, and they want football to be great here. And when you hire the greatest coach of all time, I think you're heading in the right direction. So we're looking forward to it. I think the biggest thing we have to do, Pat, here at North Carolina is bring back all the great players that have played here, whether it's Julius Peppers, Lawrence Taylors, Jeff Saturday, who you've worked with. I mean, there's been so many, Algie Crumpler, I can name them, Dre Bly. This school has got great tradition, and it's our job to honor that tradition and to bring back those alumni onto this field to show that we belong in the conversation about the top teams in college football.
Okay, so you guys are loving it, fully committed down there, because there were some reports here now over the last couple of days, a lot of assumption and fodder, if you will, about Tom Brady, who is a part of the coaching hiring process out there for the Las Vegas Raiders, reaching out to Coach Belichick. And then there was a potential alluding to immediately about, is Bill Belichick getting tempted into coming back into the NFL? The way he structured his contract with a $10 million buyout or a $1 million buyout, depending upon what it was, is certainly something that would make it feasible for him to head to the NFL if the opportunity was to arise. Tom Brady is in the conversation to hire a head coach. He calls his old head coach. Is he just talking to him about good old days? Is he asking him if he wants to come to the NFL? What do you know about the entirety, and how do you feel about your time at North Carolina thus far, and how long and how committed are you guys down there?
Completely committed, 1,000% committed. I know for Coach Belichick and myself, those conversations, look, guys that do the insider stuff for the NFL, they've got to put stories out there. That one was a complete falsehood. Coach Belichick, when that story came out, was recruiting South Jersey. And today he was at Bergen Catholic, one of the teams we watch play at Ocean City, and he's gone to the Hun School to recruit kids in Princeton. I mean, that story just had no legs. I think what often happens in rumoring, and I know this from doing it in the league, is people try to make a connection. A to B equals C. Well, that's not always the case. Yes, Tom Brady is being involved with interviews. Yes, Tom Brady is doing research on head coaching candidates. Yes, Tom Brady is calling people up for advice and counsel, because that's why he's so great at what he does, because he's listening for advice. But don't assume that that's because he's doing that. He wants Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick committed to North Carolina. He committed it to me. He committed it to the university. There's been no conversation about anything. And we drive from this office here, is this football field behind me, to where we're staying. We commute each day together, and we both talk about how messed up the NFL is and how thankful we're in college football.
Is that
because
real?
Because we're shaking our heads.
Is that real?
Yeah, because that's the real I mean, this is the best job we could have at the time of our lives, and we're going to really embrace it, and we're going to work hard to make North Carolina proud.
Coach, Mr. Manager, General Manager of North Carolina, and TED Talker and podcast host, live show host, multiple-time Super Bowl champion, author, email daily newsletter, entrepreneur, you name it. A lot of people that are old school in the college world are bailing to get to the NFL because they said this college is a nightmare. And you just said that you guys are talking here very early in the process. Obviously, you're in the meat of recruiting and trying to put together your roster and try to figure out and implement your culture down there. But you're saying at this time of your life, this is perfect for you guys. Why do you think that is? Why do you think Bill and you are at the perfect time to be at North Carolina?
Because we've been in pro football. We've heard no from players before. We've known that players go for money at certain places. We know that players get lured. But the difference between college football and pro football is there's really only two avenues. There's the draft and there's free agency. In college football, it's unlimited. We have high school, We have high school. We have the portal. The portal reopens again. And so for all the it's like when you go to the boardwalk at Ocean City and you're 14 years old and you see a pretty girl and you can't get a pretty girl to talk to you. You go to the next pretty girl. There's always somebody else coming down the boardwalk. And so
there's always somebody else coming down the boardwalk.
That's the best thing about it. I've heard no more than I've heard yes. But I embrace no because I know there's somebody else out there. Well, we're going to go to this school. Okay, great. We'll just sign this receiver as opposed to you. I don't take it personally. I think to me, that's what in pro football, you get lied to. In high school football recruiting with the agents that are doing it now, they lie to you. I'm used to being lied to. I'm immune to it. But I think to me, there's more chances to improve your roster here than it was in pro football.
Okay, so obviously anybody's a free agent at any time. We had Drew Rosenhaus on earlier. How often are you negotiating with NFL agents that you've known from the past, and how big of a benefit is that for you guys? Because I assume, and I think Bill maybe alluded to it, or you did, or I forget who, somebody did, there's going to be agents that are telling their clients, like, hey, you should probably go to Bill Belichick. You're like a Bill Belichick type guy. Has that been happening for you guys? And how has it been?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, look, let's face it, okay? What I've said on your show many times is the college draft now has become a senior draft, and that's because of NIL. And so if you're a young man and you're thinking about entering the draft and you've graduated from your school, you're a grad transfer, and now you're deciding, do I go in the draft or do I stay? Well, let's say you're a 4th-round pick in the draft, 5th-round pick. You can get more money in NIL than you can in the NFL draft, so why not come back for another year and improve your stock? And what's the best way to improve your stock? Play for a pro coach. Learn the pro system. Understand a pro program. Have pro training. Have pro nutrition. Have pro therapy and all the things that we're trying to do here at North Carolina. I think this is, and I've said this many times on your show, that the college draft, when I first started in 1984 and we had 16, 17 rounds, it was all college seniors. Now you have a chance to make money and stay in school. Why not do it? I think it's a great opportunity, and we're going to benefit from that because the agents know if you want to play pro football, North Carolina is a place that's going to teach you how to play there.
Beautiful place from all accounts. I've never been, but I've heard it is a
You're
wonderful...
coming. We're getting you here. We're going to get you here. There's no question.
Okay, you got it. Can't wait to come down and see the place. And that, boy, the unis and the merch.
Oh, yeah.
And
Come
the
on.
swag and Georgia. I mean, it is.
Carolina Blue?
It's wonderful. I hope you guys get it going. I'm excited to hear that you're excited about it. And I'm also pumped to hear that Bill is committed to the North Carolina Tar Heels. Let's talk about the NFL a little bit here. D-Bud has a question for you.
Yeah, Mike. Good to see you, first of all. We got Super Wild Card Weekend coming up. We're still calling it
Super. Yeah.
Yeah,
we are.
So Super Wild Card Weekend coming up.
Did I ever call you back?
No, he knew. Wow. I left a voicemail on somebody's phone. In 2025, I left a voicemail on somebody's office phone saying, hey, enough.
Yeah. That's what it's called. It's called Super
Wild Card Weekend. Because you know why? It is super. You acknowledged it's super. It's Super Wild Card Weekend. The NFL said, the reason why we added the super to the beginning of Wild Card Weekend because we added 2 more teams, you see. We made it super. It was Wild Card. Now it's Super Wild Card. Well, let's keep it. Okay, and then you can go to Stupendous Wild Card Weekend if you want to take it to the next step of that team. Anyway, so I appreciate you bringing that up.
Hell yeah. And speaking of Super Wild Card Weekend, who should be on upset alert this weekend in the NFL?
Well, look, I think the Eagles have a challenge. I know Green Bay losing Watson is a problem, but Green Bay has this unique ability to score with Philly. Now, Philly can control the line of scrimmage and run the ball and do what they typically do, which is keep the ball for 36 minutes and run it. Remember, there was a period in the NFL that the Eagles were gaining more yards on the ground than through the air, which is a rarity. I mean, that's service academy-like qualities that the Eagles had. I think that's going to be a challenge. I mean, look, the North we know is good. I mean, Minnesota lost twice to Detroit. They lost to the Rams, but we know they're a good team. We know Green Bay's a good team, and they can pull an upset, and they can go on the road. Bill Walsh used to say this all the time. How do you quiet a crowd? Get first downs, right? How do you make the crowd stop cheering? Get first downs. Offensively is how you win on the road. That's why Coach Walsh had a better road record than he did home record in San Francisco because of the West Coast offense and his ability to get first downs. I think Green Bay has a chance. Obviously, the Rams have already beat Minnesota. Hopefully, they can play that game with all the devastation going out in Southern California right now. But I look at that Green Bay game and say, wow, I don't know if I want to draw that one right up there. I think the Chargers are playing better than the Texans currently. And then the other game, and it was last year with Russell Wilson, the Broncos, the way they pushed around Buffalo, the way they ran the ball, slowed the game down, made it very difficult on the Buffalo Bills. They beat them last year when Buffalo was in that slump. Can they do it again? I don't think they can, but I think it'll be a hell of a game to watch.
Broncos have been incredibly hot as of late, and hot teams towards the end of the season are normally teams that will do best into the playoffs, but Chiefs get their asses beat in the last game of the season. Then obviously the Philadelphia Eagles situation with the benching, it's like Detroit Lions just continue to buzzsaw.
Yep.
You know, they keep going. It just makes me feel better whenever you're playing great at the end of the year going into the playoffs. But what happens on the field, who knows? Same thing for the Chargers. We talked to Jim Harbaugh, and obviously they're favored there, so it wouldn't be an upset, although they're playing in Houston. And Lombo, the way that Harbaugh kind of shaped his mindset around that Week 18 game against the Raiders was that he was telling the team that we're about one more game away from our maximum toughness. Like we need to sharpen a little bit more, and that's how they were attacking the last game against the Raiders. And it's like they just beat the hell. And then now it's like they're completely rolling. I like the teams that are hot going in the playoffs. And then to your point about the Vikings-Rams out there in LA, just like we said in the first hour, and we'd like to echo until it's all figured out, which who knows when that'll ever be with how it looks. We are incredibly sorry and send nothing but positive thoughts, even though I know it doesn't mean shit for a lot of cases, to people in Los Angeles. It's crazy. Brian McCarthy, who is potentially a part of this super, conversation, dropping a super wild card thing, which we like McCarthy. McCarthy there, McCarthy here, McCarthy everywhere. We do like McCarthy in this entire thing, but he said if the game was to be moved out of Los Angeles because of either air quality index or if the Fires were able to make their way over to where SoFi is, which I think is very far from where it currently is, but these winds have been gusting at like 100 miles an hour or something, they'd be playing in Phoenix. They'd be playing in Phoenix, Arizona. So they do have contingency plans in place. Obviously, that's not great for any party. Obviously, if that's happening, things are still not good in Los Angeles, what none of us are hoping for, but the NFL is looking into a relocation if it has to happen. And once again, nothing but positive thoughts and prayers for everybody over there with an insane disaster taking place right in front of us. AJ has a question for you, Lombo.
Lombo, obviously we have two great games, tonight and then tomorrow night in the college ranks, and then the NFL, the Super Wild Card Weekend. What have the best teams done that you have been around when these games matter, these elimination games to where, you've done what you've done all season, but hey, this is when it truly matters. One or two plays can make up the whole game. Like, what do the best coaches do to make their teams go out there and play free and actually, get the best out of them?
I think we did a huge study when I was in New England. These games are often decided by who converts third and short. Who can control third and short? Everybody gets so focused on one element, but to control the football, to keep the ball, and who wins the middle eight, who's able to control the ball at the end of the first half and win the second half. Those two areas really resonate. Obviously, we're going to hear from everybody, well, turnovers matter, but missed field goals are turnovers, so you've got to be very good. Look, the Cincinnati Bengals went to the Super Bowl. They played a bunch of backup offensive linemen. They weren't very good, but their kicker, McPherson, that year was dynamic. Was dynamic. Yeah. He was unbelievable. You need a hot kicker come playoff time. You really do, because you can't pass up points in these games. You can't be so cavalier to think that, we've got to do this. And you've got to control the third down, the third and shorts. It's not the 3rd and 5 or 6s, because that's just goes part of it. But you've got to be able to convert the easier downs when you have to. And it requires being physical up front with your offensive line. Look, we just saw college football. All the teams that had byes lost. Right? I think what Jim Harbaugh's approach is the right one. To be good at football, you got to practice football. To be great at football, you got to practice great. And I think that's why he was taking that last game of the year seriously. Look, remember, Kansas City at this time of the year last year, no one thought that they were going to win a game. I was told by a lot of people after they lost to the Raiders on Christmas Day, they'll never win again. And they got their mojo back. And I think the teams that can do that this time of the year with a hot kicker are always deadly.
Yeah, and Dicker the kicker, obviously up for all-pro nods and Pro Bowl nods and everything like that out there in Los Angeles. That building, Lombo, we haven't got a chance to chat with you since going out there. Whole building all in. Whole building.
Next level.
Every single person in the building. Even a person making a damn pizza out of the helmet pizza maker. Now, no one.
And we mean no one.
Out Pizza's the Hut. But that guy was a very close second. That guy was a very close second. He was like very proud of it too. Like he was very proud. Like everybody in there, it's a happy mission, I believe is how Jim Harbaugh phrased it. And it's real. And they got guys in there. Go ahead.
He's great at building culture. Look, that's what he does. And everybody, his team, what you see with the Colts, and as we're in this NFL hiring season, and if you're an NFL owner, what you want is your team to adapt the personality of the head coach.
I'm like Obi the Orange.
Amen.
I'm like Obi the Orange. What was that all about?
Nope.
He just brought the Colts out of nowhere. Right? I mean, we could have just powered right through that. We could have just powered right through the Colts situation, Coach.
Yeah, I mean, same thing. Look, the Raiders are sitting there looking for a coach again. They could have had Jim Harbaugh last year. To me, it's about understanding what fits what you need. And it's hard to find great leaders. It's hard to find guys that do that.
Right. Jim Harbaugh's in the Ring of Honor for the Indianapolis Colts.
It's painful to think about. Well,
it is painful. I hadn't thought about it until right now. It is.
I'm sorry, Pat. I apologize. But see, once in a lifetime comes once in a lifetime, and you got to be able to recognize it.
Yeah, because when it's there,
the Raiders had a once in a lifetime opportunity to hire Jim Harbaugh last year, and they turned it down.
You only get one shot. Don't miss your chance to blow, because opportunity comes once in a lifetime. Yo. You know, that's Eminem. That's Marshall Mathers. That's 100% accurate. We stuck it. Okay, since we brought up the Colts, I'll ask you. You've been around football a long time. 8 years, going on 9 years now. Chris Ballard's a good man.
Great man.
Great.
We love Chris Ballard.
Great Southern drawl.
Would like to let everybody know we love Chris Ballard, the human. But with what the culture has seemingly become with a lot of people speaking out, and also happening down here in Miami, and it's not as deep into a culture being built and cemented in as the Colts are, but same things are being said out of this building, and I think it's going to come out of a lot of different buildings about like the accountability is pretty. Can you just put the toothpaste back in to the tube, especially when it's been cemented in for almost a decade? 8 years is a long. Guys are getting their second contracts and playing through them as Indianapolis Colts in this culture. Have you ever seen it just flip around? Because there's a chance.
No.
Okay.
It only flips around when you flip the leadership, because it's a little bit like you can't all of a sudden you can't become tougher when you haven't been tough, right? Like, let's face it, Cincinnati, you can fire Lou and hire new defensive coaches, but the problem in Cincinnati is Zach Taylor going to be tough enough and coach an offense that helps the defensive coordinator. They throw the ball every play. You become a defensive coordinator in Cincinnati. See how you like it, right? It's a culture thing. And I think it's the same thing. You can't have guys. I mean, everybody loves Mike McDaniel. Love it. Oh, he's great press conference. Wears his high up, pants up high.
He does look cool.
He's fun.
He does.
But you got to look, accountability. Bill Parcells says this all the time. He told it to me relentlessly. If you don't like confrontation, get your butt out of coaching. If you don't like confrontation, get out of coaching. And so you got to hold players accountable. This whole generation of, everybody sings along, let's be nice, let's go to Dairy Queen after the game. That don't win championships.
You take me to an Oreo Blizzard, extra Oreo. You might give me a punt ball a little further.
Leave DQ alone, Long.
Well, you got to earn that. It can't be every day. Can't be every day.
Nick Saban on.
Yeah.
You have Nick on every week. Nick will tell you that. You can't be, you got to look, leadership's about pushing people when they go too slow. And if you don't have players that want accountability, then they don't belong on your team. And it's the job of Shane Steichen. It's the job of Mike. They're the head coach. They're getting paid $8, $9, $10 million a year. They're not getting paid that to draw plays up. They're getting paid that to lead the team.
Okay.
That's what you got to do. You got to lead the team. And leadership is about accountability.
Okay, so I love everything you're saying. And the boys have more questions for you. I'm going to drift away from the NFL real quick because I heard the most ridiculous head coach press conference of all time, I think. Coming out of UCLA basketball, Mick Cronin. Did you see this clip yet?
I saw it.
Let's run this for the people that didn't. This is a head coach of a team.
But we don't play. We're soft. So don't tell me you want to win. Like, just don't tell me you want to win. So don't tell me you want to win. It's crazy, and it's every day. I'm tired of it. It's every day. I have the most energy of anybody at practice every day. I'm upset with everybody in that locker room, my assistant coaches and my players. I mean, I don't need to do anything else. I almost got 500 wins. I'm only 53. I mean, it's a joke. It's a joke. But yet I come in and I have more passion and energy and pride than everybody, and that's the problem. So what the truth of it is, Ben, it's really hard to coach people that are delusional. The hungry dog gets the bone. We got guys that think they're way better than they are. They're nice kids. They're completely delusional about who they are.
They're good boys. We got some good kids. We got some nice kids. Yeah. I've never heard that out of a head coach before.
And I think he's going to regret what he said. I think, to me, leadership's about standing in front of people. Look, those players just didn't come to UCLA because they liked Westwood or they liked Santa Monica Boulevard. They came there because he recruited them. Your team's a reflection of who you recruit. And if you don't like who you recruit, you got to change that. And that goes for pro football. Like, you can't stand in front of the team and say, you guys are soft. It's all about the program. It's all about what we're asking you to do. You got to take accountability for it. Leadership's about standing in front of players when things go bad. You stand behind them when things go well. And so when you're talking about what he talked about, that's a great conversation to have with the team in the locker room behind closed doors. It's not a conversation to have in America, because those players now, he got called out. You don't do that. Now they don't trust. You lose trust in that situation. It's behind closed doors. Look, if you think your team's not executing the way you want it, that falls on you. Remember this, and I've said this many times on your show, you're either coaching it or allowing it to happen.
Yeah, that's like an old sage, basically, the reality of the situation. Let's talk about calling out your team publicly and then how they respond. Coach Mayo up in New England, Jerod Mayo, fired after one season, and now, Lombo, we're learning all these stories. We're learning a lot of stories are getting projected out there, and you don't have to throw anybody under the bus or anything like that. Okay, I don't want you to do that. We know you and Bill are allies in this entire thing, and this situation is obviously what it is. But whenever all these stories start coming out, those stories are coming out for a reason, right? People are trying to be like, hey, this is why a decision was made. And how do you feel about the decision that was made in that particular case, or just in general 1 year into a head coaching run?
I think it's a universal problem in the National Football League. What happened to Mayo is these owners hand the keys to the store, and then they don't give them any toolbox to help them work their craft. I mean, Mayo wasn't ready to be a head coach. He wasn't. It's not fair to him to judge him on what happened after a year. He wasn't prepared. But the reality of it is there's no coach prepared to be a head coach. It's a very tough job. It's a terrain. There was an old saying we had at the Raiders with Al Davis dealing with him, is the jungle's never dangerous if you know the trails. And so one thing about being a head coach, you don't know the trails. You're learning them. And so you're asking these coaches to do a job and you're giving them no help. And it's not, let's hire a search firm to help us. That's crap. They're not helping you. They're helping you pick the guy, they get paid, and they leave town. This is about helping the coach develop his leadership skills. I've said this since I've written Gridiron Genius. I think the league has done a disservice to a lot of minority candidates not having a leadership center. We have one here at the University of North Carolina that we're going to integrate into all the things we do at the Daily Coach. We want to create leaders. And leadership is coaching. And I think some of these young coaches who are getting these head jobs, they're not prepared for them. They know the plays, they don't know leadership. And I think ultimately, when you look at what happened to Mayo, when you look at what happened to some of these other coaches in the league, that's ultimately where it falls short.
Being a coach is really hard. I think that is, being a head coach is very, very difficult. I think that is what we learn every single firing cycle and every single hiring cycle. We all have hope normally. A headline will win over a fan base, and then you kind of watch it unfold, and you're like, damn, this guy wasn't the guy, or this woman isn't the woman, which I think is projected to be happening here in the next decade or so, potentially even in GM position in the next couple of years. I think there is a potential opportunities popping up there, but it's really hard. I think it's really, really hard. And finding a great leader who can also handle itineraries and logistics and coaching and motivating and emotions and have empathy while also having an authoritarian inside of them. It's like, that's not just, those don't just fall like trees. That isn't something that's everywhere. So if you stick with somebody that doesn't got it, you're an asshole. And if you get rid of somebody too quick and they have it, you're an asshole. It is hard to find a head coach, which is why I think some teams are choosing not to make any changes.
Yeah.
I don't want to make any changes. I don't want to make any changes. Tone has a question for you, Lombo.
Yeah, I kind of have a question based off of that, Paisan. sorry, excuse me. Speaking of the head coaches, there are a lot of head coach candidates out there that are being interviewed right now, and they come from every background. Like you have Spags, Flores, and Sala. They come from the DC, and they used to be a head coach tree. You got Ben Johnson, who's an offensive coordinator, Cliff and Nagy, who were head coaches, but also on the offensive side. And you have a guy like Vrabel or Pete Carroll, who are more of like culture guys who were head coaches that were out last year. Do you have a favorite, or do you have a favorite like avenue of where the coach comes from?
Yeah, I want somebody who's a leader. I want somebody to stand in front of the man who's willing to take on confrontation, however you do it. Pete Carroll's way of taking on confrontation is completely different than Bill Belichick's or Mike Vrabel. But I think you have to have somebody who understands the job, who's got a hunger to keep performing at the job. It's an exhausting job. And you don't want – look, the problem is when you interview these guys, if you're interviewing Ben Johnson, you've got to ask Ben Johnson, hey, Ben, when your special teams aren't playing well, how do you fix it? And he can't come back to you and say, well, I'm just going to rely on my coach, because now he voids of leadership. You got to have answers for every problem that comes up. And Mike Vrabel certainly does. Pete Carroll certainly does. But some of these young coaches, they got to learn that. I mean, it's one of the – how long have we been talking about the Indianapolis defense on your show or on my podcast that I did? I mean, we and now we're surprised that it happened. Now we're surprised. I mean, we've been saying it for 3 years, but somebody in the building has to say, this isn't working. This isn't what we can do. Now, that's called disloyalty in the NFL. But to me, doing it the other way is devotion, because you're telling people what they want to hear. Loyalty is telling the truth. And I think that's part of what you want from a head coach, is you want somebody who can recognize those problems.
Lombo, we appreciate you so much, brother. It was great chatting with you again. Good luck getting the recruits.
Good, guys.
Good luck handling the roster.
We're going to get them in here.
You're the man.
We're going to see you soon, Pat. We're going to get you down. We're going to get the whole crew down. We need the whole crew down here.
Okay, you got it. You got it. We'll Airbnb down there.
Hell yeah.
We'll wear all our Jordans.
Play some golf.
Yeah, we'll play some golf at that country club you guys got.
We got the greatest. If you think there's a sneaker collection better than ours, I promise you, we'll double dip on that.
Yeah, there is it. We know that. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm 12 and a half. Ladies and gentlemen, Michael Lombardi.
Hey, Lombo.